I'm happy. Shoveling dirt and digging this pit brings me sublime bliss. With every scoop, 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 they all connect me to you. With every scoop of dirt, irritating germs coat my fingers, my clothes, and my body. My skin's freezing, the air is frigid. There's a girl groaning by my side. I wonder if she's still dreaming. Thank goodness. She wheezes and moans, but at least she appears to be having a great dream. I use the shovel to push her body into the pit. There's a soft thud of flesh striking dirt. Did that hurt? I've got to bury her in quickly. I hear her soft whisper from beneath the dirt falling on her. Her voice is an impediment to my happiness. I swing the shovel down without hesitation. Bones shatter and flesh tears apart. The rich smell of blood fills my lungs. I stop my work and lay a hand on her cheek. Good. Her face wasn't crushed too badly. I run my fingers along her cheek, eyes and lips. The feeling of warm blood. Suddenly, there's a cold sensation on the back of my hand. Oh, it's snowing, isn't it?
Bizarre serial murders in Ueno. I let out a sigh as I read the headline. I suppose I wouldn't be on my way to Zushi if this hadn't happened. I scan over the article. The murders seem to be indiscriminate, the victims' bodies brutally chopped up. That makes the fourth victim in Ueno. The inflammatory tone of the article jolts me back to reality. It's another reminder that the war is over. A few years ago, an article like this definitely wouldn't have run uncensored. They'd say it would reduce the morale of the citizens. I spot the line "Lead Detective Arishima Kazuma" in the article, and instantly it brings up memories of my former boss. I'd just seen him 2 days ago. Instead of looking for a job after I quit the police force, I secluded myself in a room I had rented at a brothel that belonged to an old friend of mine. After several months of that lifestyle, Arishima-san paid me a visit. That's when it all began.
Sorry for barging in like this, Shugo.
Nah, you're welcome here anytime, Arishima-san. I'd always been awkward around others, but this guy was an exception. I'd worked with Arishima-san for nearly 10 years. We fought together in the war and both joined the police force after we were discharged from active duty. I was pretty glad to see him, as my day-to-day activities revolved around reading and not much else. However, bizarre murders?
Yeah, the bizarre serial murder case going on in Ueno. The city's in a panic right now. Haven't you heard, Shugo?
Sorry, but I don't really listen to the radio or read the papers much.
I see. I suppose that's understandable, given your current lifestyle. Anyway, a lot of troublesome cases have cropped up since you quit the force. I've been pretty short-handed here. But this case is the real deal. 3 people have been butchered in less than a month.
3 people? Seriously?
The corpses were discovered in an abnormal state. It's rare to see these kinds of bizarre cases in Japan.
You look pretty worn out.
You got that right. It's been a while since I've had any proper shut-eye.
He shrugged, the hint of a smile tugging at his lips.
Anyway, could I ask a favor of you, since I'm so tied up at the moment?
I getcha, but the thing is... I refrained from answering immediately.
What's the matter, Shugo? Your compensation will be the same as usual.
No, nothing was wrong, per se. It was a request from a man I'd been indebted to for the last 10 years. There was no reason for me to refuse him at that point. Arishima-san had been sending work my way for a long while. For the most part, they were small, hassle-free jobs. I was sure this would be the same. I was also starting to get tired of spending all my days idling about inside the brothel. However, there was something that bothered me. I'll take you up on that job. There is, however, one thing I'd like to ask you regarding those murders. Upon hearing that, the edges of his lips curled into a twisted grin.
So, my man Takashiro Shugo's taken an interest in those bizarre murders, huh? I'd be happy to reappoint you any time. I have a shortage of talented detectives. I think this case would be perfect for you.
Come on, stop joking around. I'm just curious. I've learned my lesson already. Images of what happened on the job 1 year ago surfaced in my mind. I shook my head to make them go away. You mentioned earlier that the corpses were abnormal. What exactly did you mean by that?
Right. It's not exactly a pleasant topic of conversation, so I'll cut to the chase.
Arishima-san continued on, his tone all business.
First, it's just as the papers have reported. The corpses were dismembered beyond recognition. The tips of the fingers were carefully destroyed, and the eyeballs gouged so deeply that the hollow of the wound nearly reached the brain. Vital reactions were discovered in some of the wounds.
That means...
Yeah. Long story short, the victims were tortured to death. The cause of death was hemorrhaging. The perp didn't aim to kill, but to injure. Judging from the wounds, they were rather persistent and merciless. That'd be enough to make it a bizarre murder case with a twisted killer.
But there's more?
Yeah. There's one more thing. We've been instructed not to make this public yet, though I suppose it's only a matter of time before people find out.
Top secret. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Arishima-san lowered his voice slightly.
There was extensive damage between the abdomen and genitals on the corpses, and the wounds in that area were quite distinctive. That's basically the rundown of the autopsy reports.
What do you mean by distinctive?
Well, according to forensics, it was almost as though they were torn apart by a sharp set of teeth.
The train sways noisily and I'm jolted back to my senses. It's been 2 days since my talk with Arishima, and Ueno's homicidal maniac has taken a new victim. The newest corpse resembles the previous 3 in that a part of it was missing, with tooth marks left around the wound. Which means that this madman is chopping him up and eating him. A chill runs up my spine. Crazy bastard. I can understand why Arishima-san is so worried. I've never seen anything so twisted, even during my military service in China. The press has started accusing the investigation team of neglecting their duties. They say that the initial investigation was inefficient and that information is being released too slowly. At any rate, it's got nothing to do with me. I've got to concentrate at the task at hand. I shake my head to clear away the terrible images and run my eyes across the documents I'd received from Arishima-san. It's a case involving the missing daughter of the Kohzuki family. I'm to search for their runaway child, it seems. The person who originally requested this investigation was an old friend of Arishima-san's boss. It wasn't an offer he could refuse. The documents only contain a bare-bones description of the case, meaning I'll need to get the details from the clients themselves. There might be some information that they want to keep away from prying eyes. This sort of thing is fairly common. Anyway, this will be a piece of cake compared to the bizarre murder case. I can see why Arishima-san entrusted it to me. But the thing is, something about this just bugs me. Sushi. This place brings back painful memories from over 10 years ago. We're here. Damn it, is this really the right way? Why do people always have to build their houses in the middle of nowhere? The freezing wind whips up flurries of snow and blows down my neck. I pull up the collar of my kimono and stretch my scarf up to cover my mouth. Sheesh, I guess kimonos do have their limits. No matter how many layers I pack on, the wind just cuts right through the cloth. I don't care much for Western-style clothes, but I suppose I can't cling on to old traditions forever. I guess the cold has caused me to start rambling. No, that's not it. The name of the missing girl written on the documents, that's probably what sets my heart all aflutter. Kohzuki Yura. It's a very special name to me. I had evacuated to Zushi before the war started. It was here that I met this girl, and we eventually became romantically involved. We broke up when I went off to war. I thought I'd never see her again, what with the battles and the insanity that ensued. I had tried to forget her, and now here I am. This can't be mere coincidence. The name Kohzuki Yura was written on the documents that Arishima-san had given to me. Disappeared? Her? Of all people? A detailed description of her case is missing from my files. The lack of information alone dredges up bad memories I've been trying to forget. My head throbs as I pass by the familiar scenery. I don't even notice her voice initially. Preoccupied with my sentimental thoughts, how uncharacteristic of me.
Are you...
It's a voice I had heard countless times 7 years ago. I lift up my face to take a look at her. Yura.
Thanks for coming all the way out here. Going through all that snow must have been a nightmare, right?
She leads me inside the mansion and dusts the snow off me at the entryway. Not at all. Still half dazed, I'm led down a dimly lit corridor.
Our house is really hard to find since it's way out in the middle of nowhere, right? That's probably why our visitors are always getting lost. Even if you're rich, I don't really see the point in having a huge plot of land if people are going to get lost. Plus, it's a huge problem when you invite your friends over. Right? Don't you think so too, sir?
She's so cheerful and expressive. It makes me wonder how on earth I'd even mistake her for Yura. She's the complete opposite of her.
I'm so sorry. I've just been babbling on and on without telling you my name.
She bobs her head energetically and bows.
I'm Kohzuki Kazuna. Thanks for coming here about my sister.
Sure, nice to meet you too. Kohzuki Kazuna, eh? Come to think of it, Yura did mention having a twin sister.
Is there something on my face?
Kazuna looks up at me, puzzled by my gaze. Nah, it's nothing. Anyhow, my job involves your sister, correct?
Yes.
Perhaps it's my imagination, but Kazuna's cheerful expression seems to cloud over a bit.
My father would like to speak to you in greater detail. I'll show you to him.
And she walks off.
Pardon us.
I'm shown into the living room of the Kohzuki Manor. This must be the man who requested the job, Kohzuki Keiichiro. The second-born son to a venerable family, he built his company from the ground up when he was a young man and amassed a fortune working as a military supplier during the war. Quite the self-made man. It's said that he made a lot of enemies for himself with his prideful nature and disdain for others.
Have a seat.
His tone is all arrogance. I guess the rumors weren't far from the truth. Pardon the intrusion. I bow and sit down on the sofa.
Thank you for taking the time to come all the way out here. You're Takashiro-kun, right?
Yeah, Takashiro Shugo.
My name is Kohzuki Keiichiro. This is my wife, Ryoko.
She bows silently. She's quite gloomy, a stark contrast to her daughter Kazuna.
And Kazuna's already introduced herself, right?
Yes, she has. She's such a cheerful young lady, isn't she? I compliment the man on his daughter.
Huh? I'm not like that at all.
Kazuna blushes furiously and waves her hands around. She seems rather ill at ease.
Pull yourself together, Kazuna. Don't act so undignified in front of our guest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please, don't worry about it. But let's get down to business, shall we? Inspector Arishima told me that your daughter has disappeared.
That's correct. About that.
According to Keiichiro, what happened was... Kohzuki Yura was severely injured in an accident 10 years ago. Ever since then, she had been receiving medical treatment in her room. She almost never left her room and avoided the servants, as though she was trying to hide herself from the eyes of society. Then came the war, 5 years ago. During the post-war confusion, Yura had slipped out of her room while nobody was watching. The Kohzuki family had tried all available means to look for their daughter, but during that period, the search bore no fruit. But 5 years ago, that's quite a long time. Why continue the search now?
That's because Father...
Kazuna suddenly speaks up.
Quiet! I will not be interrupted by women and children.
Kazuna bites her lip, mortified. She's not exactly the prim and proper young lady that she initially seemed to be.
I couldn't care a whit about my runaway daughter. However, this other one has been quite stubborn.
He glares at Kazuna.
Recently, we've had word that someone sighted my daughter in Ueno. There haven't been any promising leads for several years. And so Kazuna here got all excited and started raising a racket about searching for her again, and doing it properly this time. That's the general rundown of the situation.
I see how it is now.
So, Takashiro-kun, will you take on the search for my daughter Yura?
It was a rather odd request compared to what I had initially expected. I would usually refuse this kind of job, despite it being an offer from Arishima-san. However, I'll do it, is my reply.
I see. I'm grateful.
Keiichiro nods thoughtfully, as though it were only natural for me to have accepted. He then continues.
Then let's get to the details of your job, Takashiro-kun. Kazuna, leave now.
Huh? But...
We're just going to be talking about finances. There's no need for you to hear this.
But there's still...
Kazuna, could you stop interrupting us?
Keiichiro's words reverberate coolly in the air.
Yes, father.
Kazuna reluctantly assents and leaves the room. Keiichiro and his wife exchange a look and let out deep sighs.
Anyway, Takashiro-kun, there's more to the story. It's something I want you to keep secret from Kazuna. Will you hear me out?
There's more? I wonder what he's going to say.
I don't want you to be offended by this, as it may sound kind of strange.
He scrunches up his face in disgust. Right.
You see, my daughter Yura is already dead.
ItWasRed project.